I firstly want to apologise because this video is going to be a bit different from what you poggies are used to seeing on this channel. But it's still Elden Ring related, so don't go anywhere. We got linked to a Reddit thread where someone posted some screenshots of a guy comparing invaders to, well, Morlocks who commit tragedies in schools. In our quest to find the source of these insane comments and see if this was a troll or not, we stumbled upon the original Reddit thread and boy, oh boy, how we wish we didn't. Buckle up, because this is going to be a bumpy ride into Loonyland. A Reddit user made an Ask Me Anything thread, prompting other users to ask him about his experiences as an average invader. Nothing out of the ordinary, save from the fact that this was posted in the Elden Ring subreddit, where invasions are not precisely held in the highest of regards. Anyhow, this is where we meet the main character of our anime, which we are going to call Chuck. Of course, Chuck will remain anonymous to prevent harassment, because this person is clearly not mentally well. Chuck talks about how he hates the invasion mechanic because he believes that by design invasions are not fair, as the invader is usually prepared for PvP, while the poor host and his babysitters are not. In case you are not familiar, an invasion is when another player joins your world uninvited, and I use that term loosely, to defeat you and your friends and claim the reward. In Elden Ring, the only way to get invaded is by using a special item that activates them, or by summoning another player. In either of those cases, you're voluntarily opening your world to invaders, to a lesser or higher degree. The bottom line is that you're taking a conscious decision to let invaders join your world. He speaks on behalf of the vast majority of the community, stating that even if victorious, the invasions are not fun for the invaded, and how he was on his 24th attempt trying to beat Radahn, only to be invaded and defeated after 20 minutes or so of trying to summon someone. Chuck, I'm gonna let you in on a secret. If you enter the fog wall, the invader will be gone and you'll be able to simply fight the boss. Well, that's very crazy, eh? Even though his takes are pretty bad, Chuck still didn't say anything outrageous. But of course, someone had to come in to challenge his ideas. The antagonist, but not the villain of this anime, which we'll call Jimmy, tells Chuck that invasions are a natural part of co-op, and they are there exclusively to balance out cooperation, as it inherently reduces the difficulty of the game. He also points out that the invader is at a massive disadvantage in every way, be it because he has to fight multiple people or because they have less healing potions than the host and his friends. Our main character then tips his fedora, cracks his knuckles and starts to angrily type the 3 problems he believes people that defend invasions have, while the first point states that he talks about what he thinks the game should be, which is completely irrelevant. The other 2 points basically amount to nuh-uh. The invader is not at a disadvantage, the host is, reasoning that the host is not ready for PvP. If you have ever invaded before in your life, you'd know that while this is partially true, it doesn't matter at all. 3 people monkey mashing in your general direction can easily be the end of you in any invasion, regardless of your skill level, because that's how invasions are designed. They are designed with the host's best interests in mind. Part of his argument can be refuted by advising Chuck to keep extra PvP stuff in his inventory and simply swap it when he gets invaded. Jimmy tried to tell him that, but it went in one ear and out the other. However, you can see Chuck's mask slowly starting to slip when reading the last part of his comment.
It is an unfair fight. It will always be an unfair fight, and you're the video game equivalent of a mash trying to justify the attack saying, oh, well, there are more of them.
What?
This alone should have been a red flag already, but it somehow slipped by Jimmy, where in his next comment, he simply talked about the points Chuck made instead of addressing the madness. But in any case, Jimmy is right. The host's lack of equipment is not the invader's problem, because it's not like the host can't prepare. They simply choose not to. This displeases the Gorgonite that is Chuck, so he proceeds to bless everyone with a wall of text so long, Trump's trying to put it in the Mexican border. But basically, he says 2 things. Invasions should be consensual, thus defeating the purpose of what an invasion actually is. And more yapping about how he's not prepared nor expecting an invasion despite having, you know, summoned, which triggers invasions. He tries to feed Jimmy the same nothing burger once again, using the final boss of the DLC as an example, which, by the way, is located in this area, with the summoning pool being right next to the fog wall. And once again, he puts the cherry on the diarrhea cake by stating the following.
Imagine if a school complained that there were 300 students and now if they die, it's their own fault. There were 300 of them and only one of me. But you, the came armed, prepared for combat, and they came with pencils, prepared for exams, because, you know, it's a school, not a battlefield.
What?
I don't think I have to point out how utterly stupid and offensive his analogy is. Right? But as absurd and moronic as his statement sounds, that isn't even close to what comes later. Naturally, Jimmy points out that if Chuck knows an invasion is possible, Chuck should carry what he considers a PvP loadout in his inventory to switch to it in case an invader shows up, also calling Chuck out on his absolutely massive gaping skill issue. Only this time, he also points out how delusional Chuck sounds by comparing invaders to school This prompted Chuck to don his Bob the Builder hat and construct another wall of text, complaining that he shouldn't have to learn how to swap between hundreds of weapons in his menu just to switch to a PvP build. Chuck, you do realize you can organize your gear in the chest for better menu navigation, right?
What a sick joke!
Instead of considering this advice, Chuck calls Jimmy entitled for suggesting ways to handle invaders, and then goes on to claim that all invaders and PvP players do is whine about Rivers of Blood and Moonvale needing nerfs, revealing just how out of touch he is with the PvP scene, as those weapons stopped being relevant over 2 years ago. And he also wants Jimmy to explain why comparing invaders to school is deemed delusional.
What?!
Jimmy does the right thing and doesn't even entertain the idea of discussing why comparing invaders in Elden Ring to school is completely delusional. Instead, he simply calls Chuck inept for refusing to learn aspects of the game. And that's when Chuck finally snapped.
Cry more. Your whole comment is just you trying to make me feel bad for a perfectly reasonable comparison. School will attack people who have no desire to engage with them, who have not planned nor equipped themselves to engage with them, with the goal of unaliving them. Invaders will do the same thing. The only difference is who the target is. Face it, you're the supreme gentleman of the Souls community.
You are a f***ing idiot!
Imagine for a moment that you're going through the worst grieving period of your life, having lost your kid to one of the most horrible things that could possibly happen, and this unwashed, onion-scented McDonald's container waddles up to you and says,
Don't worry, I understand exactly what you're going through. I got invaded in Elden Ring, which is practically the same thing.
I just can't. We want to believe the guy's trolling, but if that's the case, that's one hell of a commitment he has to the act, judging by his comment history on Reddit. Of course, the rest of the people on the thread called him out on his lunacy and a mod deleted his comment. But the rest of the thread is still there, and he hasn't touched a single comment since. Bro did the only gymnastics of his life by mentally convincing himself that his problem with invaders is not a skill issue. It's because invaders are comparable to literal criminals. Imagine being such a deranged lunatic to delude yourself into thinking that such an analogy is even remotely accurate, going as far as challenging the other dude to dispute it when called out on your idiocy.
I am not crazy!
This guy needs help. Stat. But yeah, we just wanted to show you Poggies this because it's not the first time this has happened. Overweight clowns preferring to call invaders literal criminals instead of dealing with their own lack of skill, which is a minor yet noisy part of the Souls community. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna get an aspirin. Bye.